right, we're
honestly,
live. And we're back, everybody. Welcome back. Gotta love Spectrum. Got to love Spectrum here. Let me see, make
that's
sure.
so. You know what's so weird though is that like my internet went out, your internet went out, TJ's internet went out. Like,
They obviously did something. And this is one of the biggest things with Spectrum that a lot of customers just can't understand. They do their updates and stuff between like 11 and 12, 11 and 1. Like, do this shit at 4 o'clock in the morning, bro. Justice, welcome back. Yes, we are back. We were on an absolute heater over here. Absolute heater.
that's like it's like the fifth time too that like in the past 2 weeks where they've like something's happened with my internet. And I was talking to my wife about this, and she's like, "Oh, you need to just call them and be like, I work from home, and you are costing me paid time off by your ineptitude as a company to be able to uphold internet, which you promised, and then I pay $300 a month for it. Like, it's ridiculous."
You know what's even more screwed up? So so you pay $300 a month. You probably like $330 with all of your TVs, channels, taxes, all that stuff. I have the same thing, right? I had the gig internet, well, all this stuff. It was like $330. My HOA just signed a deal to have 1 gig internet and the basic package for $35 a month. So if I load up all of my channels, which obviously I'm going to, including a DVR, I will have every single channel that Spectrum offers, plus 1 gig internet for a total of $80 a month.
Congratulations.
But my question is, they came to us and they said, your community already is at 90% Spectrum because that's all we can have. That's the only thing we can have. There's no options. Why would you come in and lock us into a 5-year deal at 10% of what you're getting paid? That makes no sense.
I don't know.
But anyway, you suck.
Yeah.
And let's get back into it. So I do believe that we are off with the Antonio Pierce hire from the Las Vegas Raiders, which was an overwhelming locker room favorite. I do believe it was Max Crosby that said, if you don't bring him back, I'm leaving. I want to be traded. It looks like he has a great control of that locker room. The only thing that I think that a little bit of a knock on him is going to be able to build his coaching staff with some of the weaknesses that he does have. I can't remember exactly what they were, but I will say this. It's nice to see the Las Vegas Raiders show a little bit of stability. That's all. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. I mean, going back to Oakland, right, when they used to play on the A's field, team was always in shambles. They go to L.A., shambles. Now they got this brand new stadium in Las Vegas. Everything looks on the up and up. They finally have it looks like a head coach that the players are willing to play for. So congratulations on Antonio Pierce getting the tag removed. Looking for good things to come out of the Las Vegas Raiders. And I do believe, they will be very, very active in the NFL draft this year.
I am. I'm happy for Antonio Pierce. I am. I one of my favorite linebackers playing. I thought he was unbelievable with the Giants, and I'm sure TJ has a very soft spot for him as well too. It seems like we've gotten away from head coaches that are more overseeing the entire thing. When I say that, being more of like a GM of not of the just the CEO,
being like a regional supervisor and your 2 general managers there.
Like you're either a defensive specialist or an offensive specialist, right? We because we're so scared to lose those guys to head coaching gigs. So you try to promote them as quickly as possible to get them there, and we've kind of gone away from that. It seems like Antonio Pierce kind of fits that mold and that role of the CEO. I don't know if he's exactly a specialist. The only problem that I have with this is that look around the division, okay? You have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, okay? You have Sean Payton and whoever they're going to bring in, who I'm sure is going to be very viable considering how much they're paying Sean Payton. Then you have Harbaugh and Herbert. And as I look around, I saw that the Raiders are considering running Aiden O'Connell back out there for next year as their starting quarterback. And it just makes me worry that as much of a feel-good story as this is, knowing how much Mark Davis loves Antonio Pierce, that love will only last so long when there's no success and results.
Well, you
And so
got
that was
absolutely, absolutely.
because we know that there was a honeymoon phase with him taking over as interim, and that was, we saw what it was. And so, are we still going to be on that honeymoon phase next year? Does that voice get old at any point? And then how do you bring in really high quality coordinators and then also retain those coordinators as well too? Those are just a few questions that I have about the Raiders, but I couldn't be happier for him. I hope he succeeds.
Well, we'll see what this roster looks like when it comes time for next season. I do expect them to be very active in the draft. I expect them to move up and down a couple times, do whatever they got to do. You had Devontae Adams out there. Is he going to be happy? Does he stay with Aiden O'Connell as well? Do they, try to move up, get a Jaden Daniels or maybe a Michael Penix Jr. a little bit later that could fall directly to them to put pressure on Aiden O'Connell, like you said? I mean, Aiden O'Connell had a couple flashes, but then he didn't. It was kind of like what we were talking about before with what was the guy that went to Minnesota and then was doing really good.
Josh Dobbs.
Josh Dobbs, right? You called that one. Like I said, look at him. He's doing great. And you're like, well, look what he's done in his career. And eventually he's going to come back to reality and so forth and so on. I think that whatever that team, they had Michael Mayer, tight end out of, I think, Notre Dame that's looking pretty well. Obviously, they have Josh Jacobs. I mean, yeah, Max Crosby, who one of the best defenders in the league. I mean, the pieces are close, but to your point, that's an extremely tough division. And not only is it an extremely tough division. Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know who all is going to stay. Devontae Adams, I don't know. Is Devontae Adams going to want to stick around for a full rebuild?
Garrett Wilson just gave up the number 17 in New York for the Jets. Decided to change numbers without anybody preemptively asking him to. Went and put a different number, and now 17 is available in New York. So,
well, that just seems to be right there. I mean, obviously, Devontae Adams would love to get back to Aaron Rodgers. That was the whole thing to start with, that we thought that Aaron Rodgers was going to the Las Vegas Raiders. So we thought that, hey, that's where he's going to go. So that wouldn't surprise me at all, and I'm sure that the Jets will be willing to give up probably a first-round pick for him. And that Jets pick is going to be a pretty good pick. So maybe they get a first rounder for Devontae Adams. You get out there. Now you have Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson out there for Aaron Rodgers next year. And to your point, you can have Michael, you can have, Mike Evans, you can have Devontae Adams, you can have DJ Moore, you can have Garrett Wilson all on the same team. But if Rodgers is flat on his back or running for his life, it ain't going to fucking matter. It ain't going to matter, man. So congratulations there. Now the LA Chargers making the big splash, which I just still cannot fathom this to me. Jim Harbaugh going to the LA Chargers, and what I can't fathom is that Bears Nation did not take a look at him. Apparently, this is the insider information here, guys. I'm letting you guys in on an insider secret, so please, let's keep this between us. That Jim Harbaugh was very excited to come to the Bears with Caleb Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Does this mean Justin Fields is staying? We don't know. But my goodness, I can't believe that the Bears just, seriously. I mean, he's just a legend. He's a legendary coach. He's a proven coach, man. His record out in San Francisco, what he did to turn around that franchise, obviously Michigan College is a different scenario, but the guy's a proven winner. His brother's a proven winner. It's just in the fucking pedigree, man. And you're like, no, we're good with the floose. We're good with the floose. Maybe that is, but maybe they weren't good with the floose. Maybe they said, we don't want Caleb Williams, and John Harbaugh's like, I don't want Justin Fields. That could have very well happened as well. We'll see what happens. But he does go to the LA Chargers, gets Justin Herbert. As somebody that's in the memorabilia business, I've already been buying up Justin Herbert stock. I will continue to do so. I think that he will unlock the potential over there. That's kind of why I was a little bit curious about when you were excited about Kellen Moore, because, they did have the pieces for offense. They just didn't put a whole lot together, at least from my very small snippet of Chargers football that I watched this year. So congratulations to Jim Harbaugh. And definitely congratulations to the LA Chargers. That division is, woo. I mean, like you said, Andy Reid, Sean Payton, Jim Harbaugh, and Antonio Pierce. Who's the oddball out?
Where's the well, who knows? Who knows what Antonio Pierce can do,
Absolutely.
I think it's a home run hire. I think if you look at the way that Harbaugh has developed quarterbacks in the past, whether it be an Alex Smith, whose career was dead in San Francisco, whether it be Colin Kaepernick and what he did to make Kaepernick relevant. We saw what Kaepernick was without Harbaugh, just completely different. I think it's going to be a home run for him. they got to work on their rosters in shambles. They're so far over the cap next year. They got a lot of question marks of what they're going to do. But that being said, I think you're bringing in a CEO guy and a guy who will be able to manage everything and be the CEO, but also be the leader as well too, which I think sometimes is tough because as the CEO, we used to always say you want your assistant coach to have the ear of the players because they need a sounding board sometimes, and you need that buffer to explain what's going on. Harbaugh to me is just the guy where everybody looks at him and respects him, and we see pedigree. Fun story as well too. Guess who comes to town to play the Chargers next year? None other than the Baltimore Ravens, and we will have the Harbaugh Bowl going on next year as well too. So
almost like it's scripted out there.
I think it's a home run hire. Obviously, the writing was on the wall for a while. Where does Michigan go from here? They're going to turn right to Moore, who took over for the few games when Harbaugh was out. They won't miss a step. It'll be fine. Listen, the Chargers will work it out. Harbaugh will work that roster out. It might not be pretty this year, but I think that Herbert in the next 3 to 4 years will be talking about him as up there in the top 3 quarterbacks of the NFL.
I disagree. I think that they'll make the necessary roster moves with free agency draft, and I think they're going to be competitive next year. To your point, they might not win the Super Bowl next year, but they're going to be way more competitive.
Right. Yep. Okay, sure. They will outpace their wins from this year next year, unless Harbaugh says, you know what, we need a 2-year rebuild to redo this roster and redo this salary cap, which I could see happening as well.
Absolutely. So, another move, Vic Fangio out of the Miami Dolphins defensive coordinator and is going to head to Eagles. This was a mutual party once the Eagles job opened up. The biggest story here is the Dolphins players. Now, we had one, and I know that you know the names, one player posting kicking rocks, the other one posting an unlock emoji as if Vic Fangio was the reason that defense was held down. We both talked about we didn't necessarily think that some of the schemes that Vic Fangio rolled out with this defense and this personnel was necessarily the best fit. But at the end of the day, if you're a Dolphins defensive player and you're going to look to your coach and say you're the reason we lost, I don't know.
Go look in the mirror, bro.
Yeah, you might be right, but it's still not. It's not a good look.
Terrible look, and it makes you as a casual observer and passerby of a fan not root for them.
Absolutely.
Which sucks, because you don't want to do that. So just stop doing that shit, dude. Wish them well. Keep it moving. Take the high road. Let us like you.
Listen to Sonny Weaver Jr. Right?
God.
Stay off social media.
Yeah.
Stay off of it. You don't need to be on it. You don't need to be on it,
Coach.
Yeah.
Good luck in your next stop, Coach.
Absolutely.
You don't. It's the stupidest thing in the world to react like that.
Because if I'm a defensive coordinator,
it shows immaturity.
If I'm a defensive coordinator and I'm looking at the Miami gig and I'm like, well, these guys just don't respect anything. I mean, there would have to be a lot of questions involved of like what I would sit down with both of those players that posted that as I'm interviewing. Why did you post that? Because you can say whatever you want. 2 people say it. It's a crowd. There's more people thinking. There's more people thinking it. And if you have an infected locker room, you can't recover from that, man. You just can't recover. Just like we're talking about the Milwaukee Bucks, right? And Giannis just not really enjoying what the coach was doing. You can't. He lost them, obviously. You can't recover from that shit.
We talked about it too. It wasn't like Fangio was fired. Fangio was released from his contract so that he could be closer to his family. He got released from his contract so that he could go to Philly.
Right. Who he was a consultant for as well. Yeah.
The Philly thing was guaranteed happening as soon as their DC position opened up. His family's up there. He's got ties to the organization. It wasn't like you perform poorly and you're fired. It's hey, listen, I want to go be with my family. Is it cool if you release me from my contract? Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
I would rather be here.
Correct.
Exactly. And it's a lateral move, so nobody. The Bears still looking for their defensive coordinator. One of the names, Titans defensive pass game coordinator and cornerback coach, Chris Harris was interviewing him. Not the Titans coach that I want, but we'll get into that in a second. But this was just breaking as we started our show here. The Bears are set to interview Joe Barry from the Green Bay Packers. My God, I've got so much to say on this. You hired Luke Getsy from the Green Bay Packers. Did it work? No. Now you're looking at Joe Barry from the Packers. Okay. Now, I will give the Packers defense a little bit of credit over the past 4 weeks. They turned it on those 4 weeks. Absolutely did. And he might be the best guy for the job. I don't know. But what the fuck are we doing, bro? Your rival that you haven't beaten 10 straight games has said this guy's not good enough for us. What the fuck are you doing interviewing him? I don't care. I don't care. I just don't. Why? Why? Your rival that continually owns you, that have owner stake in the Chicago Bears, 0-10 against you. You brought their offensive coordinator that they also fired and thought, hey, this is a good idea. He turned out to be a piece of dog shit. Now, he could be a great offensive coordinator, just not with the scheme that Justin Fields and the Bears needed to run. I will say that. Just because you're a great offensive coordinator doesn't mean that you're going to align with any team that you go on to. It's just not the way. It's just not the way it is. I think everybody knows that. But now we're on the defensive coordinator that Green Bay said, you know what, this isn't good enough. We're off. And the Chicago Bears are like, come to daddy. I don't understand it. Help me understand this, Jeffrey.
I can't understand your franchise and what they do. I'm sorry. Okay. I apologize.
That's okay. So we do have.
I ask questions all the time. I'm like, why the fuck are they doing this? But whatever.
All right, we got a few coaching faces to tear up here before we just get into our very, very quick preview of the games going on this weekend, which we already alluded to in Wednesday's show, but we will be happy to give you our picks and a quick synopsis of the breakdown. So we still have 2 open jobs. We have the Seattle Seahawks. We have the Washington Redskins. All right, we have 2 of them that are open. We have Bill Belichick still available, Dan Quinn, who has interviewed multiple times with Seattle, Ben Johnson, who's going to be with the Lions, obviously, still can't interview, and Bobby Slowick from the Houston Texans, who did another great job. But again, it's a one-and-done type situation, which we both don't. But I would have to believe Ben Johnson is getting a job somewhere. I would have to believe that. Now, I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to get a shot. I don't think Bobby Slowick is going to get a shot. For whatever reason, I think Dan Quinn is going to get a shot, and probably Seattle. You are leaning towards Ben Johnson going to the Washington. So
I think it's already a done deal.
With that being said, is the Sith Lord out of the NFL?
Yes, absolutely. And as he, if
careful.
If Bill was ever a I want to only coach defense and not worry about anything else type of a guy, sure, you have a job anywhere you want. But you want to be a head coach, you want to be in charge of personnel, you want all these decisions, you hold yourself on a pedestal that you are not on right now. To me, that's the disconnection is. I think, personally, there is a chance that we see a combination of Johnson going to be the head coach of the Washington Redskins, or whatever name they want to call themselves. And I could see them throwing a bag at Mike Vrabel to come be the DC and kind of help him along in some of the head coaching things that go with it as well, too. Until Vrabel, the opportunity for head job.
I don't think Vrabel would be good with that. I don't know. Because let me just put it at this point, as somebody that's kind of not done that, but kind of done that. It's like, okay, so I'm not good enough to be your head coach, but you want me to come in and kind of help and give my opinions on being a head coach to a new head coach, but not get the money for being a head coach. I don't know.
When I said they throw a bag at Mike Vrabel, they throw.
So does Mike Vrabel get paid more?
Money. No. Well, Johnson just came out and said he wants $15 million a year.
Exactly. So you're gonna have $25 million wrapped up between your 2 coaches?
It ain't tricking if you got it, Tyson. Right now, this new ownership group, they move fast, they move quick. That's why I think this has already been set in stone. It is already taken care of, and it's a done deal.
Well, I would have to think so. I mean, there's only 2 coaching jobs open. I haven't heard of the Washington.
They would have already hired somebody. They would have been the first team to hire somebody. They weren't going with.
I was going to say, I haven't heard of anybody interviewing for that job. I think Dan Quinn did, actually. Which, to me, again, after what we saw the Dallas Cowboys do against the Green Bay Packers, to me, how does Dan Quinn even stay relevant? I mean, the biggest game, and your team just completely donked, but that's a whole nother story. Again, the biggest line here is, have we seen the last of Bill Belichick? I think that we have, and I do believe it's good and bad. And let me tell you why. I think that the bad is that we're never going to see him eclipse the head coaching wins record. The good is, if he didn't want to give up the rights, which we don't know what's happening behind there, what he's demanding. But if he didn't say, hey, you know what, I'm good now. You know, I've been there for 20 some years. I'll just coach the teams that you put on the field for me. I don't know. Because regardless, as you're talking about before, when we look at Bill Belichick and why I thought the Falcons might be the best interest for him is when Bill Belichick built his staff, you have to know if you're a defensive offensive coordinator in 2 to 3 years, you're going to be looked at for the head coaching job of whatever job he's on, because 2 to 3 years was it. He wants 2 to 3 years probably to, who knows? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe he wants 5. I don't know. But I would think in 2 to 3 years, get the record and then ride off into the sunset.
Nobody's going to sign up for that though.
Not with full coaching controls.
No.
I mean, but I look at it the same way as the Bucks mortgaging the house. I mean, I think somebody, I can't remember, maybe it was RC or somebody said it perfectly clear. If you're looking for a team to rebuild your franchise, Bill Belichick is not it. If you have a team that's absolutely ready to roll and just need the coach to bring it home, that's your guy. So many of those teams, just as many of those teams are not in that situation. If you need a head coach, your organization's in shambles. And then, so I don't think he coaches this year. I think he sits out. I
wouldn't say that it's the last that we see of him. I don't think that.
No, I think a year off.
But I definitely don't think. Somebody said he better start reading up on practicing those gambling ads.
Somebody had the balls to say he could be an announcer or like a host on Get Up. Could you imagine Bill Belichick? Yeah. Bill, what do you think? Well, they're on to Buffalo.
Yep.
Let's get into it. It is NFL Championship weekend. Really quickly, we did talk about this on Wednesday. We have the Chiefs and the Ravens on the early game. This line has now moved to 4. And the one thing that scares me on this, everybody, is the public is all over Kansas City. All over Kansas City. And that just tells me right then and there that it's Baltimore. That's it. That's my whole analysis of this. I think that the Baltimore Ravens are the better football team. I think Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, I'm going to say this, shock the world, on a playing level are equal. On what they've done is Mahomes. Okay, on a playing and a talent level, I feel like those are very comparable quarterbacks. Mahomes has got it done in the important things. Lamar Jackson has it. This is where it ends. I think that Baltimore defense is way too much for the Kansas City Chiefs. Give me the under 44.5 and give me the Ravens -4. I might even parlay the two, even though I don't do that. Just as Jess says, a sprinkle for fun.
So I will never bet against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes as a dog is really good as well too. And so if you're going to give me 4 points, I'm going to take the 4 points here. I will not take the money line on the Chiefs.
No sprinkles?
Ravens. I still think the Ravens can win this game, but I think 4 is just too much. I could see this being 24-21, 23-20, somewhere around that where, you're tickling on the over, but the under still comes in, and then, you cover the 4 on there as well too.
We have a weather report out of Baltimore?
Cold.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 3 times I had to work this morning, so we don't have our wordly voice. Yeah, I mean, who schedules himself to work on a Friday until 11 o'clock? Yeah,
I think it's going to be a great game. I think both games are going to be great games. It looks like Mark Andrews is going to be activated, but be on a pitch count. So will that matter? Will likely still be the guy.
I think likely he'll still be the guy, but Andrews will be a decoy. I think that you'll just, to your point, if he's on a pitch count, you don't want to get him hit, right? You don't want to put him into a situation. You don't want to throw him across the middle where he's going to get just demolished. We're going to leave that to Isaiah Likely so he can get demolished. But we're going to use Mark Andrews as basically a dummy. We're going to run him out there. We're going to make sure people are covering him, and we're going to go away from him. Except for after the defense figures it out, realizes that Mark Andrews is just a dummy, and then guess what? We go to him in the fourth quarter. And that's where the Baltimore Ravens take it home and pull it out. I do believe the Ravens. Give me 7 to 10. Yeah.
Or welcome to take an alternate line here. The weather will not be a factor. I said cold, I lied. It's 49 degrees. Probably going to be perfect up there in Baltimore. When I say perfect, that means it's going to be overcast and look like death. But it's going to be perfect weather for what they expect in DC and Baltimore. So weather should not be a factor.
I expect more crowd noise to be the factor, and I expect that to be an equalizer.
And Joe Thuney got strained his pec as well. The really good guard for the Chiefs as well, so that could be a big hit to them as well too. Keep in mind too, I think one thing I want to circle one guy, and that's going to be Jawan Taylor. This year, if you've looked at what Jawan Taylor has done as the tackle on the right side, he's been terrible. Whether it comes to false starts, whether it comes to holds in big situations, so on and so forth. I'm going to circle that guy. If he can stay penalty free, I like the Chiefs' chances. If he has his games that he's had in the past where he's the most penalized person in the NFL, it's going to be tough for them. So
I believe so.
I want to see that matchup.
Well, the nightcap and the coup de grace of the NFC, the Detroit Lions are headed to San Francisco. -7.5 this is now up to. I think that's absolutely disrespectful. However, I do believe that the Niners do get it done. I will be rooting for Detroit. I usually don't root for my NFC people, but it's usually the Packers, and let's be honest, the Detroit Lions deserve this. I do believe that I have an interesting take onto this. Kyle Shanahan, if he doesn't win this game, and he doesn't win the Super Bowl, eyeballs are now on Shanahan. When you think about this roster that has been assembled for the last 3 years, and you have not won a chip, that's a pretty... I mean, we talk about this all day long. It's an all-star roster.
I don't think he had any control over them having to play Christian McCaffrey at quarterback last year in the NFC Championship.
True. I'm giving you that. However, what's going to be the excuse this year? By all means, this team on... we've seen this for weeks out. It's been a 49ers-Ravens clash, right? The only reason why we're giving the Chiefs any credit is because Patrick Mahomes and the history that he's done. But when we got into the meat of the season, we said it's the 49ers and the Ravens, and there's nobody else. Yeah. I expect to see that in the Super Bowl. But I will say this. If the Detroit Lions go in there and shock the world, I think Shanahan's got some answering to do, unfortunately.
I like the 49ers here in this spot. I just think their pass rush is going to be way too much, especially with Jonah Jackson being out. The really good offensive lineman for the Lions will not be playing as he got injured against the Bucs. I just think between Eric Armstead and Hargrave and Young and Bosa and Warner and a partridge in a pear tree, it's just going to be too much. They bring pressure. I think you're going to see Goff sacked at least 3 times, if not way more than that. Absolutely. Give me the 49ers. Christian McCaffrey goes nuts. Brandon Ayuk with some touchdowns over the top as well, too.
And I think this is where we disagree a little bit, because as I watch that San Francisco game against the Green Bay Packers, who do have a pretty good offensive line, that San Francisco 49ers defense got no pressure on Jordan Love whatsoever. I think where this game is going to be decided is Brock Purdy, the deep ball, and eating the absolute shit out of that secondary for the Detroit Lions. That's one of the things that we talked about. Against, when we were talking about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Detroit Lions, why are you not taking advantage of this? Why are you continuing to throw the 5 to 6 yard passes when we all know the deep ball is there against this secondary? I think with Brandon Ayuk, even Deebo Samuel, even though he's not 100%, and to your point, Christian McCaffrey on the wheel routes, George Kittle up the middle, I think that Brock Purdy will eat that secondary alive. I don't see the pressure getting to Jared Goff. As you said, I think the Detroit Lions hold that up. I think it's a shootout type game. Give me the over at 51 here. I think that's probably going to be the best bet. But I do think, as you said, the San Francisco 49ers get it done. I just have to see. If I get the Brock Purdy that I saw in the fourth quarter of this game, the 49ers cover absolutely easily and pull their starters halfway through the fourth quarter. If I get Brock Purdy that I saw in the first half, this is going to be an absolute nail grinder and one that's going to come down to the last possession.
Give me a line on over under sacks, and we can parlay the Bucs Bears bet into that.
2.5. What is it? What is
I
it?
don't know. I guess we can go look on Hard Rock. Right?
I don't know. Is that a line?
I'm sure they probably have like a team total thing, no?
NFL. Let's go over here. Detroit Lions, San Francisco. That'll be player props.
Maybe.
Passing yards, rushing yards, receiving yards, receptions, sacks. Boom, sacks. Oh, that just gives you the defensive people.
Maybe
Could we
game specials?
can
Total
we
sacks.
total sacks here?
Oh, total sacks over under is 5.
Yeah, so I'll take 2.5. I'll take the under
I'll
2.5.
I'll take the over.
All right, so we're doubling down.
Put it on the board.
So this is
over. What?
Another C note over 2.5.
Yeah, I got over 2.5. You got under 2.5. If you hit under 2.5, it wipes out the Tampa Bay Bears bet. If I win, 200 coming my way.
Might have to mortgage the house, take out a secondary mortgage, but we'll see what happens. Everybody, thanks for joining.
You're saving money on Spectrum, bro. You're saving money on Spectrum.
Fuck these guys. You know what? Everybody, thanks for hanging with us. We apologize about the drop that we were in the middle of just one juicy heater. Hopefully you guys were able to come back, and if not, watch the second half live, be able to get that on the podcast. We really appreciate you as we continue to transition into this wonderful world without Spectrum. With that being said, I hope everyone has a blessed and wonderful weekend. I hope your team wins. If it's not your team, enjoy it. Enjoy the time hanging out with the friends, family, and we will see you back here Monday for the full recap of this weekend's events and who else I yell at on Twitter over the weekend.
Be great.
If you are traveling, be sure to stay out of the left-hand lane this weekend.